My name is David, and this is the program for the Animal Farm Part 2 exercise. For the previous exercise, I was told to create 3 distinct vectors in which each would contain an animal subclass and 3 distinct methods to feed each animal subclass. For this exercise, I was told to replace each vector with a single array of type animal pointer, and each feed method with a single method to feed all the animals. Because each animal in the new array would be dynamically allocated in the heap, the instructions told us to create a destructor to delete each animal object in the array to avoid memory leaks. The instructions also told me to create virtual methods speak and get top weight, where each animal type will have a distinct implementation of the method. Apart from modifying previous code, it also told me to create a method to model an animal being sent out to pasture when it has reached a maximum weight, using the get top weight method to indicate when it has reached its max weight. This method is to remove the animal who reached the maximum weight from the array and replace it with the new animal. To fully understand it, let me walk you through the code. Over at the Animal Abstract class, notice that there are 4 virtual functions all being assigned to Zilch. What is this doing? This is telling the program that each animal subclass, even though will inherit the functions, will have a distinct implementation inside each subclass. The assigning to 0 is telling the program to not expect an implementation for the function inside the Animal Abstract class. For example, for this function, speak, each subclass, pig, chicken, and cow, has a distinct implementation of the function. Pig says oink, chicken says cluck, and cow says moo. If I call the speak function for a pig, and then for a cow object, I'd first get the output oink from the pig, and moo from the cow, even though we are basically calling the same function. If it weren't declared virtual, then each subclass would have the exact same implementation for the speak function. So in conclusion, virtual functions allow for multiple subclasses to output different outputs while being called the same function. Because the instructions told me to get rid of arrays and functions for each subclass, now I needed a new way to access each subclass type. So for this exercise, I used dynamic casting. Dynamic casting is a function that can be used to identify the type of an object. Because each element in the array is a pointer to an animal object that can be either a pig, a chicken, or a cow, we will check to see if the element in the array is pointing to either one of those 3 types to output the output based on that type. What do I mean by this? For example, in the out to pasture method, we have to identify if each animal in the array are overweight after being fed. Remember the virtual function get top weight? It is virtual because each animal type will have a distinct overweight value. For the pig, its maximum weight is 280, for the chicken it's 12, and for the cow is 1350. Because of this, we have to output 3 different outputs based on the type of animal overweighted. So we have 3 if statements checking if the animal overweight is either a pig, chicken, or a cow, to see which output it will output and which type of animal to replace. It does this by first checking if the animal subclass type, pointed to by the pointer in the array, matches the desired type, in this case a pig, and if so, it creates and returns a pointer of that type, in this case a pig. Or in other words, the if condition is true if the pointed type by the pointer in the array matches the desired type, and is false if it returns a null pointer, meaning it didn't match. If the condition is true, then it dynamically allocates a new object of that type into the heap, and creates a pointer to that object, to represent the new animal replacing the animal sent out to pasture. It then adds the pointer pointing to that object into the array, and outputs the animal type has been replaced by, and then the new pig replaced. Before running the program, let me show you how I was supposed to display my output. Over at the instructions, the program began by creating a barn object and then went to call the showAll method. Notice that the output begins with a section displaying the animals in the array, first by printing barn contains, and then each animal in the format name, the, and type. Then the program called the feedAll method, which outputted each animal in the array being fed, along with how much it gained and finally its final weight. When the animal surpassed the top weight, the program outputted in the rightmost part of the console that the animal has exceeded the top weight and that it has been replaced. When I run my code, notice that my output follows a similar pattern. It first outputs all the animals along with their name and weight, and then it outputs each animal fed, how much it gained, and his new weight. And eventually few animals will exceed the top weight, so we can see that the output displays them in the right corner. Thank you for watching.